Hola, soy Alejandro. Bienvenidos a Kiss Spanish. This is the first lesson of Unit 1 of our course for beginners here on YouTube. If you remember, in the very first lesson of Unit 0, we learned some greetings and ways of introducing ourselves, and I told you that me llamo Alejandro y soy español. Vivo en Cáceres y soy profesor. So I told you about my nationality, soy español, and my profession, soy profesor. And this is going to be the very first topic of the unit, vocabulary related to nationalities and professions, and the gender rules associated with this vocabulary. The project, the final goal of this Unit 1 is that you will be able to create a study plan and introduce yourself to another language student. Remember from the introduction of the course, if you haven't watched that, make sure to do that. I will leave a link to the video in the description. We follow this project-based approach, so every content we cover is related to you being able to perform a certain task at the end of this unit. So in order to introduce yourself to another language student, you need to tell him or her, where are you from and what do you do, right? So let's start with that. And we are going to do it getting to know 6 people. And 5 of them are Spanish students. Let's see if you can tell me which of the 6 is not Spanish student, okay? So let's meet the first one. I'm going to read just in Spanish. You can pause the video and read by yourself or shadow me and read at the same time as I do. However, it's more comfortable for you. But I'm not going to stop and translate for now. We're going to explore the vocabulary later. I'm just going to read each of the descriptions for the people. So let's get started. Me llamo John y soy inglés. Trabajo como gerente de producto. Soy Lucas, soy de Bélgica y soy médico. Me llamo Anastasia y trabajo como dependienta. Soy rusa. Mi nombre es Mónica, soy marroquí y soy periodista. Me llamo Sergio, soy de España y soy profesor de español. Soy Germán, soy alemán y trabajo de cocinero. Okay, pause again if you need to. And can you tell me which of these 6 people is not studying Spanish? Well, it's a tricky question, but a bit obvious at the same time. It's Sergio, because he's a Spanish teacher from Spain. So obviously he's not studying Spanish. So now that we know these 6 people, let's take a closer look at the vocabulary. Let's focus on getting 3 pieces of information from these descriptions: el nombre, la nacionalidad, y la profesión. I'm sure you know what this meant. Nombre, name, nacionalidad, nationality, y profesión, profession. So the first one, quite straightforward. What are the names we can see in this text? We have John, Lucas, Anastasia, Monica, Sergio, and Herman. Easy enough. Now, let's take a look at the nationalities. Pause the video if you need to. And which nationalities are mentioned here? We have inglés. John dice soy inglés. Lucas es de Bélgica. Anastasia es rusa. Mónica es marroquí. Sergio de España y Germán alemán. Inglés, de Bélgica, rusa, marroquí, de España, alemán. And lastly, let's take a look at the professions. Which professions are mentioned? We have gerente de producto, médico, dependiente, dependienta, in the case of Anastasia, periodista, profesor, y cocinero. So these are the names, nationalities, and professions mentioned here. Now, English. Now let's break down the vocabulary to make sure you can understand it. Me llamo Johnny, soy inglés, I'm English. De Bélgica, I'm from Belgium. Rusa, Russian. Marroquí, from Morocco. España, from Spain. Alemán, German. Right? And the professions are product manager, gerente de producto. Médico is doctor. Dependienta, this one is tricky. You might not be familiar with this word, is shop clerk, shop assistant. Then periodista. What do you think is this one? This one is a bit tricky too. Is a journalist. Profesor de español is enough, straightforward. Spanish teacher. In cocinero, someone that works in a cocina or someone that likes cocinar. So it's a cook, a chef. And now let's take a closer look at how to give this information. Because if you can pay attention here and read the text again, I'm sure you can see different ways of giving our name. Dar el nombre. Let's see if you can tell me which 3 ways are there to do that. We have me llamo John, soy Lucas, o mi nombre es. And mi nombre es Mónica. So the most common one is me llamo o soy. Mi nombre es. I don't think this is very common. You won't hear this structure frequently. So soy Lucas, soy Alejandro, me llamo Alejandro is much, much more natural. What about giving your nationality? What ways are there to do that? We have the verb soy and just the nationality, like soy inglés. But we can also say soy plus the country. In English, it's the same. You can say I'm Spanish or I'm from Spain. So soy inglés, I'm English. Soy de Bélgica, I'm from Belgium. If Lucas were to say I'm Belgium, so it would be soy belga. And if John were to say I'm from England, it would be soy de Inglaterra. We're not going to introduce much more vocabulary related to nationalities. You can see that later on. I will give you some resources to have a list of many countries and nationalities. But for now, it's important that you are familiar with the structure. Soy plus nationality, soy de country. And lastly, how do we give our profession? Take a look at the text. If you need to, pause the video and let me know which also 3 ways are there to give me your profession. You can say soy, like Lucas, soy médico, probably the most common one. Trabajo como dependienta, says Anastasia. And trabajo de cocinero. Again, soy is probably the most common, but there is a small distinction, although it's a bit subjective, right? If you say trabajo como, you might be referring to a job that is not necessarily your profession. Is that something you are doing right now, but not necessarily is something you identify with. In English, it's similar. I work as a waiter, as a shop assistant, instead of saying I am a doctor, which is more part of your identity, part of a profession. But this is a nuance that is not worth getting into right now. You can use any of these to talk about your own profession. So far, we have covered some vocabulary regarding nationalities and professions and ways of giving that information, as well as giving your name. Remember, soy Alejandro, me llamo Alejandro, mi nombre es Alejandro, soy español, soy de España, soy profesor, trabajo como profesor, trabajo de profesor. If you are enjoying the video, please make sure to give it a like. It really helps and es gratis. It's free. And now let's continue. Now that we are familiar with the vocabulary of nationalities and professions and how to give that information, taking a closer look at the gender rules of these words. You have 3 people here, one español, a female that's Argentina, and a man that's Cubano. And the general rule for gender, the masculine form of a nationality, as you can see with cubano in Argentina, is that the masculine ends in O and the feminine ends in A. Argentino, Argentina, Chino, China, Cubano, Cubana. Now, there are nationalities that end in consonant. Español is an example. Inglés and Alemán, like Hermann, is another. And you just need to add an A to it to form the feminine. Español, española. Inglés, inglesa. Alemán, alemana. Now, let's take a look at all the rules that tell us that the nationalities are the same for male and female in the form. So, Lucas, if you remember, is de Bélgica. We said that the nationality will be belga. And the nationalities ending in A are the same. There are not many like this. Belga, Croata, right? 2 examples. Another example that's more common, many of you probably are American, which is estadounidense, is E ending. Ending also for canadiense would be the same. So a male is estadounidense, a female is estadounidense. And lastly, Marroquí, like Monica, E ending professions, Marroquí, Irani, Pakistani, are also the same for males and females. And let's now take a look at the gender of professions. Similar rule in the beginning, the general rule, O ending masculine, A ending feminine, like being arquitecto, arquitecta, médico, médica, cocinero, cocinera. Also, consonant ending would be profesor, consultor, juez, and you just add the A at the end. But now there are 2 important rules because they are, quite frequent, like saying estudiante or cantante, student or singer. The ones that end in ante do not change gender. So it's just el cantante, la cantante. And the ones that end in ista, which there are also quite a few, so periodista like Monica, dentista, futbolista, do not change also. Very common mistake is to say ella es periodista, she's a journalist, él es periodista, she's a journalist, changing the A for O, but no, it's the same. And then we have certain professions that have their own rules and there are exceptions. Actor, actor, and actress, actriz, similar to English. And dependiente, we said shop clerk is just E ending, not O ending for the masculine. Dependienta for the feminine. And sometimes words are completely different, like alcalde, a mayor of a city. If it's a male, alcaldesa, if it's a female. So this is all the theory we needed to cover for today. Some grammar rules regarding the gender of nationalities and professions, and also vocabulary that you were introduced to. But there are many more countries, nationalities, and professions that you might want to become familiar with. And that's why we have the lesson notes of this particular video. We have already mentioned in the past throughout the course that every lesson has its own notes with the slides that you can access here, as well as any relevant vocabulary or other resources. In this case, you will have here a huge list of both the country, the nationality, and the language they speak. And also the most common professions organized by their frequency ranking. Professor, the most common according to databases of frequency. Then you have autor, militar, director, policía, and you have the feminine version as well as a translation. You can also find in these notes the grammar rules that we just mentioned. If you want to access this, it's free, of course, and you will have the link in the description. But before we finish, because remember, this is an interactive course, I want to ask you something. Can you tell me something regarding the nationality about yourself, professions, or people close to you? You can say things like, yo soy inglés, mi marido es estadounidense, my husband, mi madre es jueza, Carlos es argentino, Remember that you can check SpanishDict.com for things like how do you say my friend, my husband, my mom, or you can just make up names. The important thing is that you try to use words that are relevant for your use case. You may not care at all about saying Marroquí, someone from Morocco, or someone from Canada, but you have many friends from Argentina or Colombia or Cuba, or you have many friends that are dentists or police officers, and you need to know these professions and nationalities in particular. And you don't need to know the other 90%, or you don't care that much about that. So make sure to put that into use and leave me in the comments maybe 3 to 5 sentences using vocabulary around nationalities and professions that you do care about. Remember to participate. No seas vago. Don't be lazy. That's it for today's lesson. I hope you find it useful. If you don't want to miss out on the future lessons of this course, make sure to subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell. Again, this is the first lesson of Unit 1. And if you want to see all the previous lessons as well as the future ones as we go publishing them, then check the playlist in the description. You will have the link where you have everything in order. Soy Alejandro de Key Spanish y nos vemos en clase.